and welcome back to Cuckoo for Books. My name is Salva and today I'm going to be doing a book review on the Romanov Empress by C.W. Gortner. Because I believe in dressing for the occasion, I did my best to match the cover, outfit and nails wise, and also I am wearing eagle earrings. The Romanov crest was a double-headed eagle, so double eagle, because I like nonsense like that. Brief background on the novel. It's historical fiction. It's about the Romanov dynasty, which was the ruling family of Russia for about 300 years, I think. And specifically, this novel focuses on Anastasia Romanov's grandmother, also known as Empress Mini, also known as a really long Russian name that I won't even try to pronounce. So for the purposes of this review, we're just gonna call her by her nickname, which is Mini, like mouse. One of the things that I love about doing historical fiction reviews is I don't have to put a spoiler disclaimer on it, because if any of you come at me for spoiling something, I will tell you to go to a Wikipedia page or open a damn history book. You can't spoil history, guys. Also, just another addition to the brief backstory of this novel. If you guys don't know, the Romanovs of Russia were Anastasia's family. Yes, the Anastasia who was made into a Fox animated film. She's not a Disney princess. If I ever keep referring to people as this was Anastasia's grandma, that's the Anastasia I'm talking about, and I'm using her as a point of reference because she is probably the most popular Romanov of them all. This novel has quite the scope. It covers, I think, about 50 to 60 years of Minnie's life, even before she was a princess in Denmark, to her being a Danish princess, to her getting married to the future Tsar of Russia, to the end of the Romanov dynasty as we know it. And I'm really impressed with how C.W. Gortner was able to tackle such a long timeline in his novel without things becoming too convoluted or boring, and to keep our attention on track. What I really love about C.W. Gortner's novels is it's very newbie friendly. They're books that are really easy for you to get into if you haven't read historical fiction at all, or if you're unfamiliar with the royal figures he tackles. In all his novels, he's got very, very detailed family trees, so you can follow along on who is who and who is related to who how. Also, what makes C.W. Gortner's books so user-friendly, it's all ages friendly, because guaranteed if you read historical fiction about a royal figure, there is gonna be a sex scene, because what do royals do but make heirs and spares? A lot of the ones I've read just go all out. I read the other Berlin Girl way too young. Like, I should not have been reading that at all at that age, and I was just like, what? He does what and the where and the who and she what? I was shook. As a young child, I was like, oh my god, my brain, I can't. So a lot of historical authors just make it very smutty, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're a young kid yourself and you want to get into historical fiction, C.W. Gortner's books are super age appropriate. So he is an author that is very easy to get into, but I will say this is my own personal opinion and side in the matter. If you have never ever read a Romanov book before the Romanov Empress, I would suggest reading another one before this. Why? Because, listen man, she wasn't a perfect person by any stretch of the imagination, but this novel really portrays Anastasia's mom, Empress Alexandra, in a really, really, really negative light. Granted, a lot of the things that happened were probably based on real fact, and granted, in real life, she was not the perfect empress. In fact, a lot of people say she should not have been empress at all. I've definitely read books that show her in a more favorable light, and this one just like full-on craps on her. It kind of makes sense to an extent because this book is written from the point of view of her mother-in-law. Like, the love for her family is instead depicted as obsession and her being neurotic. I would recommend reading Nicholas and Alexandra by Robert K. Massey and any of Julia P. Ghilardi's books, but specifically Born to Rule. Those books, Born to Rule and Nicholas and Alexandra, are both non-fiction. But if you've read a lot of Romanovs and feel like you can stomach reading about how much Minnie hates Alexandra, then by all means read this book. I loved reading this novel for the sheer fact that I have always wanted to know what the other Romanovs were doing during the Russian Revolution. Most of the books, and I will show you, let's pan this baby. Oh, I did panning right. This whole shelf, that's my Romanov shelf. And that one too. Fictional Romanov, non-fictional. Both those shelves, every single book I have only revolves on the Emperor, the Empress, and their 5 children. I might have one book there that focuses on the other members of the family, but most, 99%, are written about Nicholas, Alexandra, and Anastasia and her 4 siblings. And nobody ever tells me what happened to their other family members during the revolution. And this book finally gave me an answer. It just intrigued me so much because it was a breath of fresh air. I've been reading about the freaking Romanovs getting shot in the same damn cellar over and over and over again, and I don't know why. It's like Goblet of Fire. Spoiler alert, every time I watch Goblet of Fire or read it, I'm like, maybe Cedric won't die this time. He always does. The Romanovs always end up dying in each one of these books. I love reading about them. I love reading about Imperial Russia, but it always ends so sadly. So to have this other point of view from another royal during the Russian Revolution was just really interesting, and I loved reading about things for the first time. Like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, they went there. Oh, cool. Out of all the books he's written, I feel like I love the characterization of Minnie the most. I felt really connected to her. Not that I could relate to anything she went through, but her voice is really strong and really reached out to you and made a connection. Royals, they're just like us. The issues that she goes through, yes, she's dealing with all this political problems, but then she also deals with normal human stuff like, my God, I hate my daughter-in-law, or my God, my son isn't listening to me for the millionth time, or I hate my sister-in-law. It's very realistic, down-to-earth stuff that everyone deals with. I also really loved how the author was able to depict Imperial Russia. I think the way he writes is just so beautiful, and it makes me want to book a flight to Russia right away. 2 paragraphs I think stand out the most, and I will do a live reading of it because I really love it, and I marked the pages down. So this is one of my favorite passages from the book, and it's just, the way he wrote about it. Italian chef kiss. I found myself fascinated by his descriptions of the Romanov Empire, of steppes inhabited by Mongol tribes, and of the rugged mountains of the Caucasus, populated by rebel Circassians, whom the Tsar had vowed to tame or annihilate. He had me basking in the balm of the Crimea on the Black Sea, and running wild like a lynx in the wilderness of Siberia. He danced me through the ethereal beauty of St. Petersburg under the shimmering pale sky. Those white nights I knew about as we had them in summer in Denmark, but which he turned into such a magical occurrence, he made me long to see them in Russia. And then the other one, this one is Minnie's first impression of Russia as she arrives. Firebird red, I would find, was the hue of Russia, that deep scarlet of blood, of health and prosperity and good fortune. It suffused every home, marketplace, stall, and cathedral, where revered icons were illuminated by red glass lamps on filigree chains. Red was also the color of houses, troikas, carriages, and sleighs. Red in the tracery of beloved apples on doors, on gables, eaves, and walls. Delicate red stitched in kerchiefs and sarafan sleeves. Bold scarlet on the wood utensils finished in shiny lacquer, and elegant blood red piping on the uniforms of the Cossacks marching in procession to celebrate my arrival. Red wasn't the only color of my new land. My arrival in St. Petersburg preceded the first snows, and in the crystalline sharpness of the air, this astonishing city, dubbed the Venice of the North, glowed with a myriad of pearlescent hues: turquoise, pear green, ivory white, ethereal blue, and pale pink. And then we end there. I was like, how far do I need to keep going? I think those 2 paragraphs really portray such a vivid picture of what he wants you to imagine in your mind, and you're there, and it's just written so beautifully and so lyrically. It really sets the tone for the book. There are only really 2 major issues I have with this novel, and the one is the issue that I give all C.W. Gortner novels. This is my 3rd novel that I've read of his. I am sort of used to it by now. Like, the first review I gave, the second review I gave, I was just like, what's going on, guys? I don't know. And now I feel a lot more prepared. He does not time well. He don't know pacing. Really want to point out 2 notorious examples in this book. He won't smoothly transition. He will transition. This is the end of a chapter. This is a new chapter. It's supposed to move like any other chapters in any other book does. So over here it says, referring to her son, Nicholas, and he's 16. Conversation. New chapter. Upon his 19th birthday. Where did the time go? He is notorious for pulling this kind of thing in his novels. At this point, it's just freaking hilarious. There's no gradual like, and the summers passed, and he grew tolerant into a man. Nope, it's, and he's 16 upon his 19th birthday. There's another one, which I will try to find. This doesn't even give us the benefit of a chapter change. This is her son, Nicholas. He's now emperor, setting up a new parliament or constitution called the Duma. It was finished. Done. We had submitted, so they set up their whole thing. Next paragraph. 3 years had passed. What? What did you do in those 3 years, girl? I understand, because this book covers 50 years of a person's life. We can't visit every year and read about it, but you could handle the transitions a little bit better than boop boop. at this point, it's just something I brace myself for. It's not a big enough issue for me to stop reading his books ever again. Don't get me wrong, I bring this up in sort of lighthearted humor because I freaking love this author. I still stand by him as one of my favorite historical fiction authors. My second issue with this book is how the love story between Minnie's son, Anastasia's father, with his wife, Anastasia's mom, Alexandra, is portrayed. That sounded really convoluted. This could be on purpose because after all, we're reading from his mother and her mother-in-law's point of view, so obviously she's not gonna get all giddy over her son's love story. But I do wish there had been a few more moments in this novel where we could have seen actual tender moments between the couple. The way the author wrote it here is that Alexandra is this two-faced girl who pretends to be timid and shy and really was the scheming girl who knew what she wanted when she married him and became Empress of all Russia, and who also bullied Nicholas to get everything she wanted. Again, this has a kernel of truth in it, but I wish that the author would have balanced it out with her actual genuine moments of her love for her husband, because it has been well documented. The shelves I've shown you have all documented that Alexandra genuinely loved her husband, and they married for love. It wasn't arranged, and they genuinely loved and cared for each other. So I wish we could have seen a little bit more of that in this book. So yes, there were so many things I enjoyed about this novel, but I think this book was unlike any Romanov fiction or non-fiction book I've ever read before, and I think that's what made it so enjoyable. It's definitely making the list of my favorite books for this year. Yes, as early as now, I'm thinking about it. So I loved this breath of fresh air into this universe and world I had already read so many books about, but this took me by surprise. It was a novel. It's Romanov! I will leave you with that pun. I'm gonna see myself out now. And that about does it for my The Romanov Empress book review. You can follow me on my other bookish adventures on Twitter at Cuckoo for Books, and on Instagram at Cuckoo for Books and at Salva Villarosa. Please subscribe, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye guys.